Welcome back to the Get Mental podcast. My name is Dave. I have David Ford with us, University of North Carolina golfer, Division One. Just some accolades for us really quickly. He's a three-time All-American NCAA and All-American ACC three times as well. This is a number one career average at 70.5 golfing with historic stroke average, which is number one in UNC history. So we are very lucky to have my man David Ford here entering his senior year. David, how does this podcast find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here, and it's a good night to do it. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man, love it. So first of all, with all of our guests, we ask this number one question, which is, what are three mental skills that you feel that are most important for yourself, or that you've seen in other athletes that are really pivotal to kind of high performance?
Yeah, I think of two right off my head, and I think I'll think of a third one as I start talking. I think the first is accepting losses. I think the more you can accept like a bad round, a bad shot, a bad tournament, whatever it is, the more you can accept that, the quicker you can move on from it. The second thing I thought of is knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So knowing yourself on the course. My coach always says, "What makes me tick?" And what makes me me on the golf course. And then I guess the third thing my coach talks a lot about is self-belief and understanding that not only like what you do well, but also understanding that like when you're playing well, you can compete with the best in the world. I think that's a huge part of golf, a huge part of athletics. So definitely a huge part of my mind that my coach has instilled in me.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So, just kind of having the self-belief in yourself and who you are, right? Maybe even going back. But when you talk about wins and losses, I guess, can you extrapolate more about that? That was kind of your first mental skill
Mm-hmm.
that you have for all athletes. Is that a learnable thing, or is that something that you've had to overcome in your career? How's that shown up for you?
Yeah, I think it's only learnable through losing. I wish it was easier, but I know for me, I had a good stretch of golf in, I think it was 2020 to 2021 even, and played really well. And I remember I would have bad events during that stretch, and if I was able to accept the losses during that stretch, then I would get over them a lot quicker. Especially in 2020, there was a few events I played where there's two in particular that I'm thinking of. I didn't play well, but I was playing really great at the time. For whatever reason, I didn't play well in these two events in the middle of the summer. But I remember walking away from those events and not thinking about like how many poor shots I hit or the game that I played, but like assessing my golf game, seeing where I was at, and then wanting to get better and focus on the next thing. And it wasn't about dwelling about, man, like I did so poorly in this area of my golf game. It's like, no, like we understand what we did wrong, and then we look at it and we go to the next one and we win that one. And it's kind of the mindset that I had after a few losses in my career that were pivotal. And I think it's been huge for bouncing back because everyone's gonna play bad. So that's something that's been huge, even the last few months for me.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So just understanding that losses are going to happen, they're going to occur, but not to dwell on them, right? Kind of analyzing them from a tactical perspective instead of that emotional perspective and getting through that. And like you said, there's no easy way to do that. Maybe some mental imagery, right? But actually being there and losing at a time in which you're say, hey, I really value and care about my performance right now in this moment, but it's still not where it is. I want you to talk about, I guess, those pivotal losses. Like, what were they, and how did you respond, I guess, differently previously, and like, why was that particular loss so pivotal for you?
Yeah, so the one that I remember really well is the Western Am back in 2020. I was playing great golf, coming off a few good tournaments in June, and then went to the Western Am in I think late July. So this time, 4 years ago, and it was a good field and probably the best field I had played in amateur golf. But I was still in high school and I wanted to win, obviously. But I remember going there and just playing bad. I got like 100th place out of 150 or something. It was just not what I wanted. Um, but I remember the weeks after that, there was something inside me that I knew, like, if my self belief changed, then I wasn't going to win the next tournament. So, like, I could be upset at the loss. I could be upset at the way I played, but if it discouraged me and altered anything within my mind about how I saw myself on the golf course and how I felt like I was going to perform the next day, then that needed to be worked on, and just, I guess, trained uh, to think in a way that was going to lead me to win more in the future. And so I just remember that one being really pivotal. Of like, I think I had the option to be discouraged about it, but there was something in me that was like, I can't be discouraged by this loss, and I just got to keep going, like finding positives and then keep moving on.
Yeah, you describe it as something that's kind of like inside of you that's saying to push forward. And I guess what I'm hearing you say also is kind of this like identity, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily like an identity crisis, but it's an identity saying that, hey, do I belong here? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I do. As I mature into an amateur golfer, into a pro golfer, and as you climb up the ranks, no matter how old you are, really, and that happens in the corporate environment too, right? If I get promoted to VP or president of, an organization, I still have to kind of fit that mold. And there's a term for that, right? It's called imposter syndrome, right? Like thinking that I don't deserve to be where I am. And there is a certain aspect of our identity that also has to mature with the status that we're given, right? With our performance that we're given. And I think physiologically speaking, to your point, we could play really well or really poorly, but it's really our mindset that's really just saying, hey, should we be here in this moment? Are we acclimating to where this is? And I guess that leads me into, I guess, more recently in your career, I think that you've had maybe 3 pro starts, if I'm not mistaken. And I think you were partnered with Scotty Scheffler and the Arnold Palmer invitation. So I guess talk about that and like that identity, or I guess first of all, what was that experience like? Right, just being partnered with
Yeah,
Scotty Scheffler, one of the best pros there, and as you're aspiring pro yourself.
yeah, it was cool. I got to play the practice round with him. I got a connection through an organization called College Golf Fellowship that connected me and Scotty. So it was me, Scotty, Sam Burns, and Nick Dunlap in the practice round group, and Nick's one of my good buddies. So we had a blast, just playing the practice round together for 9 holes, and um, got to see a lot of Scotty's game. Was super impressed, obviously, but he was just an awesome dude. Like he loved talking about Chipotle and golf, and just we kind of kept it loose out there, and it was great. So I had a blast. I think it was good for building nerves in the practice round to get ready for the tournament. I mean, just teaming up with Scotty Scheffler. I wish I could say I wasn't nervous, but I definitely was nervous playing with Scotty. So then in the real tournament, I got paired with Webb Simpson, and I know Webb pretty well, and was fortunate to get paired with somebody I was comfortable with. So it was a blast. Set my expectations well for the future, and learned a ton. Even though I didn't play my best, I still learned a ton, and proved to myself that I can play out there, and I'm excited to when the day comes.
Yeah, man, that's such a great experience. I love that. You're talking about like dealing with your nerves too. I mean, nothing's going to decrease nerves like Chipotle, right? Like, what's your go-to Chipotle order? Actually, do you have one?
Yeah, it's so true. So I've been going there for so long that I had the same order for a while, but it was white rice, black beans, chicken, and then recently I added fajita veggies, and then I go cheese, pico, and corn. And sometimes I'm not feeling the corn, and I'll go guac. Depending on how the bank is looking. I mean, if I have enough money for guac, then we'll do it. But recently I've changed it up a little bit more, and depending on how hungry I am, I'll get the bowl or
Nice.
or
You
a
cut out there
burrito
for a second.
sometimes. And
Sorry, can you hear me?
if I'm really hungry, I'll get a kid's quesadilla as well. And that usually, yeah. I mean, the kid's quesadilla is a safe play just because it gets me more food. Did you lose me?
Yeah, I did. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. How much did you hear?
All right, awesome. I heard the wrap up of the order, and after that, it kind of just cut out.
Yeah, I saw it like reconnecting, so I kind of got distracted. And I was like thinking about if I was still talking to somebody or nothing. Wow.
No, you're good. Sorry about that. No, we have a quality control guy, Jacob, on the back end. He can smooth this out. But yeah, if you like, if we lose internet connection or what have you, as we wrap up the conversation, I mean, it can only be 30 minutes if so. But you can still hear me, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat that or
Sure. I mean, it's just Chipotle. You can if you want to.
I'll make it quick. I'll make
Sure.
it quick. Uh, So go to Chipotle order, white rice, black beans, chicken, fajita vegetables, and then sometimes I'll go guac, just depending on how much money I have. But a lot of times it's pico, cheese, corn, and then maybe guac. And then if I'm really hungry, I'll get a kid's quesadilla on the side. It's only $5. So yeah, it's kind of a steal if you get a kid's quesadilla, like a small bag of chips, and then three sides, like rice, beans, and vegetables. So it's kind of a move.
Dude, that is a move. That's one of those college kids hacks that I don't get anymore, right? Not being in college, not actively a college coach. But dude, I love that. Only $5 extra, dude. I remember the
Yeah,
days when I was pinching pennies, man, scraping them together. And it was always awesome when you could go like with your coach and have them pay for it as well.
yeah,
So
yeah. True,
that's
true.
awesome. I love that. So you saying that just being comfortable, right, with other individuals that are out there. I guess how do you feel the nerves when you're out there? Like how do you decrease your anxiety at such a high level? I mean, golf in particular, being like one of the sports that's so I guess like if emotions or anxiety gets a hold of you, it's like one of those things where, you can't bounce back. You have a few bad holes. Like how do you revert? So I guess for you, like from a mental standpoint, how do you deal with nerves in your game?
Yeah. There's, I mean, there's one way in particular that I've found that is way better than anything I can think of on my own, and it's just reading the Bible. And my brother does a really good job at this, but having a Bible, I usually have one Bible verse for each tournament that I'll just look at. I try to do it every hole, but yeah, if I can try to memorize that verse and look at that verse, like it's not just about memorizing it, but the more I memorize it, the more it gets into my heart. And I understand that like, all right, I'm on the golf course right now and I'm nervous, and no matter what situation I'm in, like there might still be nerves on the golf course, and so it's not like I read the Bible verse and those nerves go away. Like the nerves are a good thing. I love them. Like they push me into focus, but um, a lot of times they're still there even after I pray or I read the Bible. And so like it's just having this perspective of like even though I have nerves, even though I'm maybe feeling a little bit uncomfortable, that like if I know that God holds my eternity, then like He definitely holds the day that I'm playing golf that day. So there's a few verses that really remind me of that. But yeah, that's something that I can't really live without on the golf course, and I'd be lying if I said I was perfect at keeping my head together. But yeah, it's like the Bible's just way better than my own thoughts on the golf course.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. So just kind of having these Bible verses back pocketed, especially when you're approaching the game of golf, having them per hole. Is that what you say? Like, so it's not just per round; it's per hole of different tournaments. You have like one quote that you just repeat over and over again after every hole, and that decreases some of your anxiety.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It doesn't exactly decrease the nerves, I would say, but it definitely makes my heart more at peace and gives me less anxiety. And it's usually one verse for the whole tournament. My brother does a different verse in every hole, but yeah, I usually stick with one verse for the whole tournament.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. And it's like so many good nuggets in there. Like one of them is that like one, I have repetition, right? Two, what you said is it doesn't decrease your nerves completely. And I think that's a really good tip for anybody who's out there listening is like for David, like it's not really about getting rid of the nerves. You also said that you
Yeah,
embrace them, which is a really big thing. And that's what some of the things that I teach athletes as well is like, hey, nerves are a good thing. If you weren't nervous, obviously it wouldn't matter. Right.
yeah,
So it's preparing yourself, your body, your mind in order to prepare or to play at your best, but it's more so of embracing it. And if it calms your heart, chances are it'll calm your nerves as well, and it kind of gives you purpose of that drive to move forward.
yeah.
How else has faith played a role in your sport? And I guess like even a broader question, not even a broader question, maybe more specifically, does does faith make you better at your sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are two ways that like a relationship with Jesus plays into my golf and also my life, but more specifically my golf. The first is in the big moments, like when I win or when I'm just defeated by a loss. So when I'm high emotion moments, like I understand, like the Lord holds my eternity, and like I can give Him glory in the amazing moments, and then in the moments that are tough. There's plenty of verses in the Bible, and even like the heart of God is to comfort those in suffering, not necessarily to change the situation, but like to give comfort to his people. So that's kind of like the two big moments that like people think of when they think of sports, is like the crazy losses and the crazy wins. So the Lord provides a lot of comfort in both of those. And then in the day to day moments, like understanding what my purpose is. Like it's to play golf, but it's also to use the gifts that He's given me to glorify Him through that. And on the days when it's difficult, like the smaller moments when it's not winning and losing, when I'm like kind of like when I'm out just practicing by myself, understanding that having a relationship with Jesus doesn't necessarily change my circumstance. It doesn't make everything crazy easy in those mundane moments, but it gives me purpose in those moments to say like I'm playing golf for Jesus, and that's way better than playing for myself. And it allows me to have satisfaction in what I do. And then the second part of the question is, does a relationship with Jesus, or does faith make you better at what you do? I think I'd be lying if I said it didn't help me in certain situations, but I don't think a relationship with Jesus is guaranteed success. I don't think I think the Lord can do whatever He wants. And one of my friends, Webb Simpson, says like, I think the Lord cares a lot more about where the ball goes than we think. Like if He holds, there's a verse, Romans 8:32. It says, "He who did not spare His own Son, but gave Him up for us all, how will He not also along with Him graciously give us all things?" So like if he gave Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, and we understand that and we believe that, then like how could He not also give us the little things in life, like a golf score, and like that could be a 86 or it could be a 66. But it's not necessarily like he makes me better, but He gives me peace and freedom to play the best of my ability in the moments where I wouldn't be able to do that on my own. So it's it's hard to say like, man, if I follow Jesus, like will I have success? Like I don't think that's what the Lord is after. Like I think He's after our hearts, and like the more I think about it and dwell on like just what He's done in my golf, it's like the freedom and peace that He's given me on the golf course is the major win, and instead of the golf scores.
Yeah, I love that. So not tying it necessarily to the outcome whatsoever, and saying that, yeah, He probably does care a lot more about where the ball goes than you think. But at the same time, you would kind of assume that maybe, there's a bigger picture, a bigger purpose, and that does give you that sense of peace, that sense of
Yeah.
calm centeredness to be able to take the course, and believe in yourself. But also what it gives you maybe on a daily basis is this assurance, right? That He gave
Yeah.
you two legs, two arms, and we'll see where it goes. No matter what, obviously He's here for you, but He wants you to possibly, if that's His will, represent the greater good, or so to speak, right? Individuals are going to be looking at you. I mean, the Olympics are going on right now. I was watching like Simone Biles do her routine, and even in Houston, Texas, all the girls that were watching on TV were also doing the routine as well, right? Because they know, right? And so it's, can you be that person that's representing for yourself or for the Lord? And whether you have this platform or you don't, I almost guarantee that you'd still be that person.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's huge for my golf game. It's just like understanding that He holds it all, and using whatever platform I have to glorify Him, whether that's an 86 for 3 years straight or a 66 for every tournament I play. I mean, it whatever happens, you know.
It hasn't panned out that way, but if it did, I'm sure that you would be also be fine. But statistically speaking, I could see that it's not there, man. You're a really good golfer. So speaking of that, and like practicing and skill acquisition, I know that like, yeah, and again, preparing for this interview, there's some times in which you've tweaked your swing, and your swing coach has helped, as well as I think it was putting was a really like crucial like in your short game. I guess talk to me about like your mentality, or what some athletes struggle with is changing their game when it's kind of working for them, but they're not completely great at certain demographics of the game. Whether it's, I mean, basketball, it's pick any sport, doesn't really matter. Technique is a really big part of what you do as well as what other athletes do. How have you found it easy, difficult to acquire different skills, to mentally approach like your short game in particular? And I guess, do you have examples, or what would you shout out for athletes out there listening as far as like things that they need to work on? How would you mentally approach that?
Yeah. So I'd say like my philosophy on practice, preparation, and like getting out of slumps and changing things, and just the whole bit with all the physical stuff you can think of. My philosophy on it is like I have to understand what I do well so that I can fall back on those things. And there might be people listening to this or people I've talked to before of like, okay, well, I haven't had a stretch of a sport that I play that I've played well in, and like that's a case where it's like, all right, like there's something that has forced you into not playing as well as you can be. And I see a lot of kids who, like even myself, like I didn't have perfect fundamentals. Like I had good instruction growing up, but I didn't have perfect fundamentals. And my golf swing was not as good as it is now. As it, I mean, back then I wasn't swinging as well back then as I am now. And I see like there's a lot of kids who have just crazy success from a young age, like under the age of 15 or 16, just purely based off like I want to win and my desires to win. And like because the competition isn't insane at whatever level you're playing at when you're 16 years old, like it just isn't the same as playing against Scotty Scheffler. Because that's the case, then like that desire can carry you to win. So like having that stretch of golf for me where I had only desire and nothing good fundamentally that was like just propelling me to win. That stretch was huge for me because I was able to look back and say, okay, what did I do well here mentally, physically, that really solidified myself as like the type of player I want to be. And how can I look back to those things, understand what I do well in those moments, and just purely like focus on those things. And anytime I try to start chasing like a swing change that'll get me in a better spot or a new type of putting that's different from what I'm used to, that's when I start to struggle. So it's just understanding my game, understanding that like, all right, when I had this good stretch of golf, it was just purely desire that got me there. So like if I could play that well back then like going back and doing some of the things I did well then and just making everything really simple. Like, all right, I was swinging it this way back then and I won by 6 shots. Like, why don't we just go back to doing that? And just kind of having that freedom about it of like, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just got to know my tendencies, know my game, and pretty much do maintenance on my golf swing, maintenance on my putting, to try to just recreate those tendencies and make sure I'm in a good pattern with my swing. So yeah, it's pretty simple for me. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's just a lot of maintenance and like using that desire to play well to push me to play well when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Which is, again, like the simpler the better. And I think that especially in golf, you can overcomplicate things so much, whether it's swing, technique, I mean, rangefinder, different clubs, different angles on different things. I mean, there are so many things that go into the game of golf. And there are a lot of individual golfers out there who are professional, who are tracking their sleep, tracking every calorie that goes in. I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but what you're saying that works for you is, hey, I just got to oversimplify things, right?
Yeah.
Like the simpler that we could do it, the better. Like, and I'm not wedded to one way of doing things, and I'm not worried about, if my backswing is messed up or my force, whatever it is. It's
Right.
just saying, hey, we've gotten here before. It's just been, in your words, pure desire that's really
Mm-hmm.
got me to where I am. So if I could just fall back on that, then I know that everything else would be okay. And yeah, there may be some little things that I may have to brush up on, but I'm not going
Right.
to overthink this, right? I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to swing the golf club and see what happens.
Yeah. 100%. And I think like the biggest thing that like I don't know as I hear myself say that it's like there might be something in somebody that's like, all right, like pure desire, like you have to have something good fundamentally that's going to get you further than just pure desire and competitiveness can get you. But like the thing I found, and my coach has helped me a lot on this, is like if you have that desire to win and you want to win so badly, then like you're going to do the things within the swing maintenance. And if you're keeping things simple and not doing too much golf swing, you're going to do the things well uh, within your game to improve to where like if you really desire to win, then like you're gonna practice in such a way that's gonna get you there. You're not just gonna be like, I'm just gonna swing it however I want today. Like I don't even care. It's like there's gonna be certain things that desire is like, all right, if we want to win, we have to do these things, but not dwelling on those and being like, I have to get to this position.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I want to talk about a couple more things, if you will, because I know that you have athletes as well as parents and coaches that kind of listen into this podcast. So I want to make sure that I touch all realms. When
Yeah,
you were getting recruited, talk to me about the recruiting process. But if there are athletes listening into this, what are some advice that you would give to individuals during the recruiting process? Maybe from a mental standpoint, talking to coaches, what are some good questions to ask? And how do I know what uh, a good college or university is to go to? Like, will you really feel it when you feel it, or was there some sort of thought process that you went through, specific questions that you asked?
yeah, definitely. I think taking it slow is the first thing that came to mind. I think um, I had a brother that went through a recruiting process at the exact same time. He's very analytical, and I think that rubs off on me a lot too. So we took a lot more time than most kids do to commit. A lot of kids committed, especially early on when I was going through the process, within like a month or two of when they could talk to coaches. And for me, I waited, let's say it's 4 or 5 months at least, and my brother waited 6 months. So taking it slow is huge. Understanding that no matter where you're at, like you're not in a rush. If you can get into a college and you can be confident, no matter what sport you play, be confident in your game, then you can walk on a team somewhere and make it that way. And I think the two other things that I thought of were a lot of kids get super stressed out about where they're going to go to college, and I think it's a very important decision, and there should be a lot of thought into it. But if the goal is to play professionally, or if the goal is to have a great college experience where you just play in college, like there's tons of examples of that for people going to the smallest D3 school in the world, junior college. I mean, the biggest D1, best D1 school in the world. Like there's examples of everybody on the spectrum with when it comes to college recruiting. So I think just understand that you don't have to go to the biggest school in the world, even if that's something you want to do. Like there's plenty of examples of guys who went to small schools. Like for example, Webb Simpson was one of the best players in the world coming out of college. He went to Wake Forest. He was a great player at Wake Forest. I don't know the specifics of Zach Johnson's story, but I'm pretty sure he went to Delta State, which is a very small college. I don't know where it is, but Zach Johnson won the Masters and is a major champion just like Webb. So there's a ton of different ways to do it, and getting stressed out about where you're going to go is not worth the hassle. And then the next thing I'd say is the biggest thing for me was the coach at UNC, and I think picking a coach that you mesh well with is super important. And I know the big facilities and the life on campus and the atmosphere at the school is important, and that should be taken into consideration. But I think ultimately what forms you the most in college in 4 years is the people you're around. And I've been blessed at UNC to see that play out. Like we have an amazing athletic department, and they provide us with so many great resources. But I've seen just the way that if the people weren't there at UNC that I know and love on my team, then like there's no chance that I'd look into picking a different spot. Not because UNC doesn't have anything I want, just because the people at UNC are what make the place, and that's kind of that's pretty big in recruiting and something that I wouldn't take lightly.
Yeah, I love that. So just looking at your coaches, making sure they're meshing well, right? Having conversations with them, shooting text messages off, calling them. Obviously, during the recruiting process, y'all talk as well, and taking it slow. And I really like that advice. And I wish that I would have done that as well. But individuals that are listening to this podcast too is just like take it slow, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was a coach. I've recruited people also, and it's tough. It's a long journey to do that recruitment process, but just being authentic in that also is just really, really pivotal, right? Don't lie
Definitely.
to the coach. Don't tell them something that you think that they want to hear so you get a scholarship or something
Yeah.
like that. Because the more personable you are with them, the better, right? Because eventually you're going to get there and they're going to see the real you for who you
Yeah.
are. So definitely want to be truthful during that process. I want to talk a little bit about parents and the roles that like our parents play. My parents, as well as, hey man, I've heard some really great stories and some really not so good stories. Maybe the Tiger Woods' parents of the world, maybe not so good stories. But what role did your parents play, I guess, in your athletic career and your brothers? I know that you're a triplet actually, and both you and your brother go to UNC playing golf as well. But what role did your parents play in y'all's career, as well as building the confidence and self-esteem that y'all have today?
Yeah. I love this question because I feel like my parents did a really good job. Like a lot of what you see is in my success is because of them, and a lot of the bad things are just purely because of me. Just because I feel like they did such a good job in just managing my golf, me and my brother's golf. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that they did well was the two things I remember most was they just wanted me to have fun on the golf course and do what I love, and then they were super hands off with technical stuff like golf swing and anything like that. And I remember being I don't know, a sassy little 12-year-old. Like my dad would ask me something about like one time I was 14 years old and that my dad was like trying to encourage me, like, man, like you do this really well in your putting. And I was kind of like, I don't even, like I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't do that in my putting, and I'm not a good putter either. So like, there was like a moment where my dad was just trying to encourage me, and usually it's the opposite. It's like the parent is like, you need to do this better in your putting, or you need to do this better in whatever sport you play. And the kid's like, I already do this well, or like I'm working on it. But my parents, it was always like they always wanted to encourage me and support me, and do everything they could just to get my mind thinking positively, and they still do the same thing. Like my mom will, I mean, sometimes it is annoying. My mom will be like, great hole there, and I'm like, I made a bogey, and she's just like, yeah. Like she just wants to support me no matter what. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to parents. And yeah, it's I've seen a lot of bad stories of parents getting too involved with the golf swing early, and not because it's not a lack of caring for the parent or the kid. It's just like I think that it needs to be initiated by the kid to care more than the parent.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice. Bringing the joy to the parent instead of the parent bringing the joy to the child,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Like, especially if that parent has way more enthusiasm than the kid, that could seem a little bit off-putting at
mm-hmm.
times. It could seem that, they care more than me, or they want to live vicariously through them, which is almost
Yeah,
worse, right? Where they were all stars in high school or college or whatever, and then they have a kid, and the kid has expectations, as well as the parent follows through on that too. So it seems like you had really hands-off parents that like really
yeah,
supported you throughout the process, and were like, hey, if you're obsessed with this, or if this is the direction that you want to go, awesome. But we really care about you really more as a person and not just like that athlete. And I think that's super valuable, for
yeah,
sure. All right, man. You ready for the lightning round? We usually close out with a lightning round. You ready for that?
yeah. That'd be sweet.
All right. So 3 questions. Just go ahead and just give me your one answer, the first thing that pops in your mind. So the first one is, what's your favorite food?
Chicken sandwiches.
Chicken Sammy's. Oh, nice. Chick-fil-A or no?
Maybe sushi. I have two answers: chicken sandwiches and sushi.
Solid. I absolutely love sushi. All right. Number two is, when you're frustrated, what do you do?
Read the Bible.
Nice. Love it. Number three, I already kind of asked you this, but I will just anyway, or maybe I can pick up on a different one. But what's an underestimated part of your routine?
Uh, Definitely spending time with Jesus in the morning. I think that's the biggest thing. Anything else is not necessary, really. I mean, I could play golf, but I have to get my heart in the right spot in order to go play with peace.
Yeah, nice. Playing with peace, dude. So my big takeaways from this are definitely playing with peace, your love for the Lord and for Christ, and how that centers you throughout everything that you do. Man, this has been awesome. Thank you for your time so much, David. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks, man. Good luck in everything that you're doing next year. Please catch David on the UNC golf course. He's entering a senior and final year before he probably goes pro. So catch him live next season wherever you get your sports.